Hello, my dear friends. Welcome to my new video lecture. Today, I will talk about one of the most important topics in British literature, that is Elizabethan theatre. Now, this is the video number 1 where I will talk about Elizabethan theatre, and in video number 2, I will talk about the Elizabethan drama. In this particular video, I will talk about the evolution of Elizabethan theatre, and I will talk in details about the actors or the players of Elizabethan theatre, the costume, the lighting, the stage which existed during the Elizabethan theatre overall. Trying to give, also I will try to give you all time frame in which this entire Elizabethan theatre action took place. Before I begin my lecture, thank you very much for your overwhelming response, and I will request you all that if possible, if you like this video, if possible, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. So let us begin with our topic, Elizabethan theatre. Now, when we talk of Elizabethan theatre, the first thing that comes to our mind is the time frame. When exactly did the Elizabethan theatre exist, or what is the approx time frame? So in that case, we will take into account the time frame between 1562 to 1642. So 1642, we all know that the theatres were closed down. So from 1562 to 1642 can be considered the timeline of Elizabethan theatre. And the Elizabethan theatre, in true sense, can be said to be the beginning of the British theatre or the English theatre. Because a lot of significant development took place during this time, and because of that, because there had been a significant development that had taken place during this time, this period is also considered to be the golden age of English drama. Now, as you can see in this particular slide, I talk about the actors or the players of Elizabethan theatre. Now, there are many interesting aspects when we talk about the players of the Elizabethan theatre. Basically, it started as a temporary group of players and who are known as the actors. Now, in the beginning, they were considered to be vagabonds, and they were also considered to some extent to be the thieves. So later on, the nobles, under whose patronage these particular actors or the players performed, they were given license for maintaining the actors. The actors, because they were patronized by the nobles, of course the nobles played a significant role in their performances. Because of that, the actors or the drama basically was performed mainly for the nobles in their household courtyards. They were performed at various locations. The dramas were performed at various locations, and actors as a result also moved from place to place to various locations. And one more significant feature is these performances were very seasonal in nature, and all these things happened till the time of before the time of Queen Elizabeth I. Now, after that, one more important aspect, if you take into consideration about the actors or the players of the Elizabethan theatre, is basically they were very young men, and teenage boys also, younger boys were also included in it. And the interesting part is they only played the role of the female characters as well. Now later on, the actors formed groups during their performances, and these groups were called companies. One of the famous companies name of among these groups is the Queen's Men. And because I already mentioned to you all that the Elizabethan theatre to a certain point of time was very seasonal in nature, so the actors had to, because of the seasonal nature of the performances, there was a lot of demand, and as a result of which the actors had to memorize as many as 50 different parts for 25 different plays in a single month. Now, why so much? One more interesting feature I would like to add here is most of the performances were singular in nature. Theatres were not, the plots or the scripts were not repeated. So you had a lot of actions going on, and as a result of which these actors had to learn and memorize so many roles for so many plays in a very stipulated period of time. So that was a challenge which most of them played very well. Now in this picture you can very well see, when I talk about my second point, that is I talk about the Elizabethan costume, the costume that the actors wore. They were very, in this figure you can very clearly see that the costumes used generally were very expensive. The costumes included things such as embroidery, ruffs, pearls, lace, and many more such materials were used, and they were very, very bright in color. One of the reasons for this brightness of colors was that they helped in distinguishing the various characters. That was also one of the reasons, and of the brightness. One other reason was, in the beginning, towards the beginning, the Elizabethan theatre, it was only performed during the daytime. So daytime, as we can imagine, that there was a lot of light and all. So perhaps that might also be one of the reasons. Later on, of course, during the playhouse time and all, the theatre moved inside the playhouse, and there came a lot of changes, such as use of candles, then use of sceneries, which were not there in the beginning of the Elizabethan theatre. Now in this picture you can see, this is the picture of the Swan Theatre. This is the only remaining picture of an Elizabethan theatre, the famous Swan Theatre. Now then, as we move on, when we talk of theatres, there existed three kinds of theatres. They can be categorized as inn-yards, number one. Number two can be playhouses, and number three are the amphitheatres. They are three different categories of the theatres. Now when we talk about the structure of the Elizabethan theatre, basically the structure was round wooden roofless buildings. There were three galleries of seat. The groundlings where basically they were placed in an area called the pit, and natural lights and candles were used. Natural light was used in the daytime. Candles, of course, when the playhouses were introduced, candles were used in the playhouses, so that the plays can be staged at night. And we also, when we talk about the structure, we need to also mention the importance of the candles. The use of candles also at the night plays led to the introduction of intervals. So there's an interesting story. There were intervals. The intervals were made so that the candles which already burnt out or worn out can be replaced. And then these intervals also served as a time when the food and drinks could be served and sold during the interval. Music played a very, very significant role. Music and songs especially featured in the playhouses. And I told you three categories: the inn-yards, playhouses, and amphitheatres. So playhouses, this music played a very significant role. As you can see in this picture, this is a picture of the Globe. So the Elizabethan theatre as such, when it improvised, when it in the later phase, it basically was built like an amphitheatre in similar style, we can say, but not like that of the Roman amphitheatres. The style of the design was like the Romans, but the size was not the Roman. It was very small in size. Basically, it was designed to accommodate 3,000 people. An example of the amphitheatrical structure of Elizabethan theatre is as you can see in the picture, is the Globe Theatre. Now when we talk about the importance of Globe Theatre, I thought of sharing some important things about Globe Theatre to you all, which can be very significant for you all for the competitive examination as well as for your enhancement of knowledge. So the Globe Theatre basically was built in 1599 by Shakespeare's playing company called the Lord Chamberlain's Men. The land on which the Globe Theatre was built was owned by Thomas Brent, Globe Theatre was destroyed by a huge fire on 29th of June 1613, and it was again the second Globe Theatre was built on the same site and was completed by June 1614. But unfortunately, as we all know, because of the stringent policies, this Globe Theatre was closed by an ordinance which was issued on 6th of April 1642. So these are some of the important features of Globe Theatre, important informations. And one more important information and interesting information is the first recorded performance at the Globe Theatre was of Julius Caesar, which was performed on 21st of September 1599. Now, Shakespeare's Globe can be considered, which is a modern, reconstruction of Globe. The present Shakespeare Globe Theatre, which is now known as the Shakespeare's Globe, which is a reconstruction of the Globe Theatre, was opened in 1997, and approximately it is opened 750 feet, that is 230 meters away from the original site of the theatre. So these are some of the important features of the Globe Theatre, which I think can serve for better understanding about the Elizabethan theatre. So in this lecture video, 3-4 things that we discussed about the time frame of the Elizabethan theatre. We talked about the actors of the Elizabethan theatre, the characteristics of the actors of the Elizabethan theatre. We talked about the costume of the Elizabethan theatre, and that's very significant. We talked about the types, the 3 types of Elizabethan theatre, and how Elizabethan theatre evolved from the 3 types, and how slowly from natural light evolved the candle lights, and how the the concept of interval was introduced. So, and of course, I talked about the Globe Theatre and the important facts pertaining to Globe Theatre, which I feel is very, very significant for a student of literature. So this is, as I told you all, this is lecture 1 of the continuation. In lecture 2, I will talk about the Elizabethan drama, which of course is a very important lecture, and is very important from the perspective of various courses of study, as well as from various competitive examinations. Before I conclude, I would like to thank you all for taking out your valuable time and watching this video. I hope I was able to give you some input about Elizabethan theatre as such, and I would also like to request you all that if you like my video, please do subscribe to my YouTube channel. This is Dr. Shoykut Banerjee signing off. Thank you very much. May God bless you all. Keep well. Until meet you soon. Thank you very much.